Hello, good morning, everyone from Canada. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to this live English lesson. Today, we are going to be doing quite a few things. We're going to be reading a story about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, many of you have probably heard of it before. It's a cryptocurrency. I really don't know too much about it. People have tried to explain it to me many times, but it is very complicated for me to understand. But anyways, it's a cryptocurrency. It's unregulated by the government, so it exists entirely online. And I believe it began sometime around 2008, 2009 maybe. When it first was introduced to the world, it wasn't worth much. But now one Bitcoin, I believe I checked this morning, is worth about 9,000 US dollars. So the price of Bitcoin skyrocketed. If something skyrockets in English, it goes up and up and up and up, just like a rocket. We're going to read a story about someone who could have become very rich from Bitcoin, who missed out on an opportunity. And we're also going to learn some advanced English grammar. But first, before I begin, if you're new here, make sure to click that subscribe button. It would be great to have you as a subscriber on this channel. And let's just get right into it, okay? So, let me switch screens here. I have some questions for you. We're going to do lots of practice today. Should be a great time. Now, we're going to look at this structure, had I known. Conditional sentences with inversion. But before we do, let's read this story, okay? Let me just find the screen here. Sorry, one moment. There it is. Perfect. Okay, and this is a symbol for Bitcoin, by the way. So here we go. Lily Allen is better known for her singing career, which has been largely successful. The singer-songwriter has amassed a net worth of approximately $20 million. However, Lily Allen did admit her regret on Twitter after she reportedly turned down hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins. The singer was asked to stream a live gig on the popular online game Second Life. Unfortunately, the singer turned this down. The estimated offer was somewhere between 200,000 to 250,000 Bitcoins. Okay, so what's happening in this story? Lily Allen, professional singer-songwriter, was asked to stream a live gig on the internet on this one popular gaming website, or for this one game. I don't know exactly. But anyways, she was asked to do a live stream, and someone offered to pay her 200,000 to 250,000 Bitcoins. Now, back then, when the person made this offer, Bitcoin was relatively unknown. No one knew what Bitcoin was. It was this weird online currency that people were confused about. Today, this morning I checked, one Bitcoin equals 9,035 US dollars. And it goes up and down constantly. So she was offered approximately 200,000 Bitcoins just for one live performance on a live stream. And she said, no, what the hell is Bitcoin? I don't want to do that. That sounds weird. And so that is her one big regret. You can imagine how rich she would have been. I'll let you guys do the math. But to begin this lesson, let's talk about one phrasal verb that was used in this story. Turned down. She reportedly turned down hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins. Unfortunately, the singer turned this down. What does turn down mean? She turned down the offer. To turn something down basically means to refuse to accept. So, if someone offers you something and you turn that thing down, it means you don't accept it. You refuse to accept it. You'll often hear this used in the context of a job offer. I turned down the job offer. Imagine you went for a job interview. The job interview went really well. The people really liked you. The employers really liked you. And they called you to offer you the job. but you had another job that you wanted more. You could say, I turned down the job offer. On the phone, you could say, I'm sorry, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I'm going to have to turn the offer down. Okay, so turn down means refuse to accept. Here's a quote. This was on the popular website, what is it, Quora. Now, Quora is when you just ask questions. It's a website on which you ask questions. And someone asked, this girl wanted me to take her phone number, but I turned her down. Do you think she liked me? So he refused the request to give his phone number. And then he asks, do you think she liked me? My guess would be yes, she liked this guy. This is a true story. So recently my friend was invited to see Michelle Obama speak, but she turned down the opportunity. Michelle Obama, the wife of Barack Obama, was traveling through Canada recently. I think a few months ago she came to Calgary. My friend had the opportunity to see her speak, but she turned down the opportunity. She didn't go. She refused the offer. So, first question for you. What is something you recently turned down? What is something you recently turned down? Let me know. We turn things down a lot on a daily basis. We have to make decisions, right? About what we go see, what we do. We're constantly being invited to things. And let me check on the chat room, okay? I see Taylor is watching from Korea. What's up, Taylor? Vivian, Rosangela, Catherine, Ashkan, Benjamin, Grace is here. Umama is here. Sam is here. I do remember you, Sam. Hey, good to see you again. Patricia is here from France. Nitin Supa. I'm going to stick with AE. I know that that's AE and it's easier to say. RJ, Mariano, Junior, Shweta. Hello to all of you and thank you for spending part of your day with me. It's fantastic to have you here. So let me know, what is something you turned down recently? And I see Nie is here too. Hello, Nie. Linald, hello to you too. Something that I turned down recently. I turned down, actually a couple of days ago, my friend called me and said, hey, do you want to watch the hockey game? It's on at 2 p.m. And I turned down the offer. I had to do some work. I was too busy. I couldn't go watch the game with my friend, so I turned down the offer. Vivian says, I have recently turned down the opportunity to hang out with my friends because I have got a lot on my mind and I am swamped from my work. Nice expression there, swamped. Vivian used the expression swamped. If you're swamped, it means you're extremely busy. You have too much to do. Vivian, I would rephrase that and say, I recently turned down the opportunity to hang out with my friends because I had a lot on my mind and was swamped from work. So just fix the tenses there a little bit and it would sound more natural. Benjamin says, I turned down an invitation to go hiking with one of my friends. I would say it like that. Okay. Junior turned down the opportunity to go to his grandmother's house, I think. Lots of comments now. I was invited to a date with my ex-friend, although I turned down her invitation because I'm in a new relationship with someone. I think you mean ex-girlfriend, Ashkan. I was invited on a date. We're invited on dates. Someone invited me on a date with my ex-girlfriend, but I turned down the opportunity or the invitation because I'm in a new relationship with someone. Well, congratulations on your new relationships. Relationship, singular. Let's see. Mariano says, I recently turned down the opportunity, you could say. You have to turn something down or turn down something. So I recently turned down the opportunity to eat Brazilian beans. Elizabeth says, I turned down the opportunity to give a Spanish course in Libano. Sam says, my professor invited me to put out a research paper, but I had to turn it down because of my illness. Well, I hope you feel better. That's a perfect sentence. I turned down my new job opportunity, which I got last month. Very nice, Umama. And I know that you have a new job now, so that's great. Nandini says, when my brother offered to pay for the bill for our dinner last weekend, I turned down his request and paid using my card. Perfect sentence, Nandini. Very nicely written. And I often laugh about that, how as adults, I haven't been in that situation many times myself, but I've seen adults argue over who's going to pay for dinner, and it's quite funny sometimes because it can get quite aggressive. I've definitely seen that. That's my mom leaving right now, so that's what that noise is. Okay. So lots of comments coming in right now. Let me try to catch up. Neaton says, I turned down the fantastic opportunity to travel to Mauritius due to professional bindings. Professional, what's the word I'm looking for there? Oh, geez. Sometimes in these live lessons, there's the word that I think you're trying to use there, but commitments, there's a different word that would be better there. Maybe it will come to my mind. Shazia says, I recently turned down the opportunity to visit my mom's home because I already missed kids' school due to traveling. Okay, I already missed kids' school. You missed going to your kids' school because you were traveling. Han Hyun Hui says, I turned down a guy asking for my number. Yes, I imagine that many people have to do that, many women especially. Janina says, hi Jacob, I recently turned down an invitation from one of my friends that invited me to go out to dinner. I turned it down because I was feeling sick that Sunday night, unfortunately. Very good. And I hope you feel better. Yes, I turned down an interview, you could say, 2 days ago because I love my job. Nice. You didn't accept your new offer. Okay, so you were previously... You've been at your new job for a while now and you didn't accept a new offer. Seems like lots of people want you to work for them, Umama. That's fantastic. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about this. We're going to practice something that's really quite difficult, so I hope you guys are up for the challenge. Many people ask me, how can I sound more formal in English? And it's very often difficult to understand what casual language is and what formal language is in English, because a lot of the time it really depends on the context, depends on how you say it, depends on many things. But here's one way to sound more formal in English. It's a grammatical structure that I'm going to teach you, conditional sentences with inversion. So what is inversion? Inversion is basically when you flip things around, when you flip the order of things, okay? And yes, this slide, Lily Allen turned down the opportunity to earn 200,000 Bitcoins. So I forgot about that slide, but let's move on. Conditional sentences with inversion. We're going to look at the third conditional here. Now, the third conditional is formed using if plus the past perfect, and then would plus have plus the past participle. What a headache, right? I know, it's very difficult. We use the third conditional to talk about an unreal situation in the past, so something that didn't happen, and then we imagine what the result of that situation would have been. So something that didn't happen in the past, and then an imagined result. Let's look at some examples, and this will be easier. If I had studied, I would have done well on the exam. If I had studied, so if plus past participle, past perfect. If I had studied, I would have done well on the exam. So what happened in reality? This person didn't study and didn't do well on the exam. This is an imagined situation in the past and an imagined result of that situation. If I had done well on the exam, I would have become a lawyer. Again, what happened in reality? This person didn't do well on the exam and did not become a lawyer. This is an unreal situation in the past, a hypothetical situation. So what is inversion? Well, basically, we're going to get rid of if, and we're going to change the position of the verb. Now, these are quite rare, but you do hear them, and they are good to know. So, had I studied, I would have done well on the exam. Sometimes you'll hear native speakers use this formation instead, and it does sound more formal. Now, we're only looking at one example right now of a conditional sentence with inversion. If you want to know more, because there are more examples that you can use with different verbs, I've included a fantastic video in the description of this video from Ingvid. They release really great videos, especially on grammar, and there's one that looks at conditional sentences with inversion. The link is in the description. But again, had I studied, I would have done well on the exam. This is the exact same as if I had studied, I would have done well on the exam. They mean the exact same thing. Same with this one. Had I done well on the exam, I would have become a lawyer. Same meaning. One sounds a little more formal, a little more fancy, but they mean the exact same thing. We're using the third conditional here. We're imagining a situation in the past, something that didn't happen, and we're imagining the result of that situation. Let's look at some more examples. Had you asked me to marry you, I would have said yes. Had you asked me to marry you, I would have said yes. I would have said yes. So what is the reality of the situation? What actually happened? This person did not ask the other person to marry her, presumably, and she did not say yes, of course, because he never asked, okay? It's just a fancier way. Again, the exact same meaning would be present if you said, if you had asked me to marry you, I would have said yes. The exact same meaning. Had I escaped from jail, I would have called you. Rather strange sentence, I would say. But again, the meaning would be the exact same if I said, if I had escaped from jail, I would have called you. Had I known Bitcoin... Oh, I made a mistake here. Forget that B. Had I known Bitcoin was going to be so popular, I wouldn't have turned down the offer. Okay, so once again, there's a mistake in the typing here. Had I known Bitcoin was going to be so popular, I wouldn't have turned down the offer. You can imagine that Lily Allen was thinking that. She could have said that, right? So I've got 2 more questions for you today, and I want you to practice with this very complicated grammatical structure. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger? And I want you to try to use this formation here. Had I known blah, 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 I would have blah, blah, blah. You don't have to use I in the second half. Had I known blah, 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 things would have been different because... You could form the sentence like that. So here's an example from my life. Had I known that saving money is so difficult, I would have started saving when I was younger. Had I known that I was going to be an online teacher, I would have studied computer science in university, although that's probably not true because computer science is still quite difficult for me and something that I don't think I'm particularly interested in, which of course makes things quite difficult. Okay? Let's see. Nietzsche says, my friend offered me a lift, but I turned it down. Nice. Darkest dark, I always turn down don't watch your live. Well, you're watching right now, so you didn't turn down this live lesson. Nandini says, same here, Grace. It's a snowstorm today. Benjamin Milk says, is it common in Canada that families make child independent? For example, independent house and money? Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it depends what you mean by independent, but it's very common for children to move out of their families' homes earlier than in other countries, I think. I moved out of my place to go to university when I was 18, and this is my first time living back at home with my mom, and I'm only here right now to save money for the moment, but it's more common for children to leave their parents' home right after high school sometimes, or after university. I know in other countries it's more common for people to stay with their families and to live with their parents until they get married. In Canada, that's not true, and in the West in general, I would say. Okay, let's go down and see what people are saying. Nice. Nitin says, had I come across Jacob's videos earlier, I would have made better progress. Perfect. Great sentence. If I had known that living abroad is so difficult, I would have stayed in my country. I would have stayed. You want the past participle there. Remember that. But otherwise, perfect sentence, Ashkan. I've got some cat hair on my face, I think. There's cat hair all around here. It's quite unbelievable. That's what happens when you have 4 cats. Had I known English is so important in order to communicate with people from all over the world, I would have studied English harder when I was young. Remember that past participle. I would have studied English harder when I was young. Good. Great sentence, Vivian. That's a complicated one. Had I known Jacob sooner, I would have spoken English well. Very cool. Had I known how to play bluegrass style on my guitar, I'd have enjoyed playing that. How could we say that? Had I known how to play... I think that makes sense. It's weird to think about, because had you known how to play bluegrass, you would have enjoyed playing that. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It sounded a little weird to me at first. Had I known that he was trying to call me, I would have turned on my phone. Han Yun Hui. And you were just talking before about turning down someone's request for your phone number. Now you're talking about turning on your phone had you known someone was trying to call you. So that's a funny contrast, but perfect sentence there. Nice. Junior says, had I known that English was so important, I would have started learning it earlier. Is it correct? Yep, perfect. Shazia, had I known learning English is so important, I would have started practicing earlier. Lots of you are echoing this idea of studying English earlier. Good. Had I known about, Nandini says, had I known about difficulty in cooking, I would have learned it a bit earlier. Nandini, you could phrase it like this. This would be great. Had I known how difficult cooking is, I would have learned it a bit earlier. Patricia, had I known that life was so short, I would have traveled more. Very nice sentence. And I think many of us can probably relate to that. Had I known I studied tourism at university, I would have studied English harder. You could say it like this. This is what I think you're trying to say. Had I known I was going to study tourism in university, I would have studied English harder. So we're really mixing up the tenses now. Had I known I was going to. So we're talking about a past unreal situation in the future, kind of. It's very difficult to explain, but had I known I was going to do this, I would have done this differently, or the result would have been different. Had I known the bad effects of eating junk food, I would have avoided it, and today I wouldn't have been suffering from diabetes. Sorry to hear that, Nitin. You could rephrase it like that. Had I known the bad effects of eating junk food, I would have avoided it, and today I wouldn't have been. Yeah, I think you phrased it quite well. You need the article before bad effects. Had I known the bad effects of eating junk food. You could also say, perhaps more naturally, had I known how unhealthy junk food is. That's probably how I would phrase it. I would have avoided it, and today I wouldn't have been suffering from diabetes. Nie says, had I known what she liked, I would have sent her a present. All right. Very nice, Nie. If I joined the new office, I would have gotten a higher salary. Had I joined the new office, I would have gotten a higher salary. Or if I had joined the new office, I would have gotten a higher salary. My great Korean pronunciation. Yeah, I still remember a little bit. Okay, let's move on to the next question, and I'll continue trying to correct your sentences. This is the last one today. So we read a story about Lily Allen and regret. She regretted not performing this live stream and receiving 200,000 Bitcoins for it. What is one thing you regret in life? You can try to use this formation that we learned, or you can just simply tell me, I regret blah, blah, blah. My one biggest regret, I think, is quitting hockey when I was very young. I used to play competitive hockey, and I was quite good at it, and I quit when I was 11 years old, and I really regret quitting. But at the time, I was a young, stupid kid. I thought I knew everything, and that was what I wanted to do at the time. But I certainly regret it now. Sam says, had I known eating herbs would improve my eyesight, I would have had much of it. Yeah, nice. You could also say I would have eaten a lot. Had I known studied English a lot, I would have been able to... You could say, had I studied English a lot, I would have been able to find better job opportunities. You could say that. Janina says, had I known how to play the piano perfectly, I would have graduated as a music education teacher and taught people, you need to teach someone how to play the piano, or taught children how to play the piano. Perfect. Nitin says she's perfectly healthy. Good. Happy to hear that. Benjamin says, I regret that I didn't study English when I was younger. I regret not studying abroad when I had the chance. Yeah, I wish I studied abroad too. Grace says, I regret not finishing my programming course. Was that computer programming, Grace? I'm assuming? I know it's not nice to talk about regrets in life, really. I don't know why I chose to end the lesson with this question, but, well, sometimes it's nice. It can be comforting to see sometimes, I think, that we share similar regrets, and it makes me think that it's kind of just a part of being alive and being human, that we do live and regret and look back and think that we would have done things differently. And I think this Lily Allen story is a nice example of that, how we don't know what the future is going to be like. We can only act in the moment, and very often we're wrong about what the future is going to be like. Vivian says, my biggest regret in my life is to not seize the golden opportunity to study hard when I was in my high school. If I could go back in time, I would have studied hard, tried to occupy every single second of my life with study. Yeah. It's easy to say that now. I think maybe I would have done the same in high school, but I remember at the time in high school I didn't care about studying at all, so it's hard to imagine that things would have been different if I were born again and had the same experiences. Grace says, regret is a part of life. I think you're right, Grace. Nie says, I regret, you could say it like this, Nie, I regret not having the opportunity to learn English with native English speakers, plural, when I was young. Elizabeth, you could say, I regret not getting my degree on time because now I need to start it. Junior says, there are so many things I regret not having done that's difficult for me to find one to comment on here. Well, that's sorry to hear that, Junior, but that's probably true for everyone, to be honest. Patricia says, I regret that I didn't become a great English teacher like Jacob. Well, thank you for the compliment, but it's certainly not too late to become a great English teacher. I think that you could definitely do it, and it seems to me like your English level is quite high, at least judging from your writing. And teaching takes a while to learn how to do properly, and I'm by no means saying that I'm a great teacher. There's still tons and tons I need to learn, and I think teachers are always learning and will be until the end of their lives too, until the end of their careers. But it's something that anyone can do, I think. I think everyone has that potential, if that's what you really want to do. Shazia says, I regret not speaking English with my kids at their early age. Yes, although I believe I've heard you speaking English to your kids. Shazia is one of my students, so I've spoken with Shazia in Zoom meetings, and I've met Shazia's kids online, and they speak English quite well, in my opinion. I regret not calling my friend on her birthday, says Nutin. I don't know if that's real now or if that's just an example. You have me all confused. Nina says, I regret I took English for granted when I was younger, and now I'm not that confident when it comes to communicating in English. Well, Janina is another one of my students, and she just gave a fantastic presentation the other day in our group, and it was quite nice to see. So that requires a lot of confidence, I think, and I would say you're doing quite well. And I know that many people in our group, and myself included, do think that you are able to communicate very well in English, so that's fantastic. And that is everything that I have for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope that when you hear this used in English now, you'll be able to recognize it, because especially this one formation that we talked about, had I known blah, 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 had I done this, had I done that, English speakers use that formation quite often. Some of the other conditional sentences with inversion are less common, but this one's actually fairly common, and it will allow you to sound more formal in English. Okay? So that's everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and this lesson, give me a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to get my help on a more personal level, and if you'd like to get more practice, and if you'd like to step up and become a more confident English speaker, the best way to do that is to join Jacob's English Club. You can do that by going to jacobsenglishclub.com. Click on the button that says join the club, and I would love to see you on the other side. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you next week. Take care, be well, enjoy your life. Bye-bye.